Welcome to today's story, The Dragon's Last Laugh, generated by StoryWave.ai. March 2024. Please tap that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Chapter 1: An Unlikely Hero and a Dragon's Jest. The sun was just dipping below the horizon of Fantasia, painting the sky with strokes of fiery oranges and purples, as I, Edwin Thatch, Eddie to those who know me, found myself leaning against the cool stone wall of the Duck and Drake Tavern. I should have been on patrol, guarding the cobblestone streets of our quaint village from the unseen dangers that lurked beyond our walls. But who was I kidding? The most perilous threat we'd faced in the past year was Old Man Jenkins' runaway goat. As I twirled my sword with an ease born of countless idle hours, my green eyes caught a glint of something unusual. A figure approached, his slim build swaying to the lilt of a tune I couldn't quite hear. It was Falco Quinn, known to all as Folly, the bard with straw-blonde hair that seemed spun from gold and a smile that could charm the scales off a fish. "Eddie, my lad," he called out, strumming his lute with fingers nimble as a weasel. His voice was a melody that could soothe the savage beast or incite a crowd to revelry. "Have you heard the news?" "What news?" I asked, unable to hide my sarcastic drawl. Did Jenkins' goat enlist in a quest to rescue itself? Falco's laugh was exuberant, and he clapped me on the back as if we were off to slay a horde of goblins. "Far grander, my friend. Iggy the dragon has snatched Princess Marigold. 'Tis a jest, they say, for he's left riddles and jests in his wake." I blinked, not sure whether to be amused or perturbed. Ignatius Flamequill, or Iggy as he fancied himself, wasn't your garden-variety beast. He was a dragon who loved a good chuckle more than a charred night for supper. "A jest?" I mused, my brow furrowing. "And how do you propose we handle this prankster of a dragon?" "Why, with bravery and song, Eddie." Falco's grin widened. "We shall be legends. I've already composed a ballad for our grand adventure." His blue eyes sparkled with the promise of glory. I had to admit, the thought of adventure stirred something within me, but it wasn't bravery, more like a gnawing sense in my gut that this was going to end in disaster. Yet as I looked at Falco's eager face, I couldn't squash his dreams like a wayward bug. "All right, Folly, lead the way. Let's find this mischievous dragon." We hadn't ventured far when a peculiar impish creature crossed our path. It was the village imp, known for turning the simplest task into an ordeal. With a mischievous glint in its eye, it seemed almost as though it knew of Iggy's jest and was eager to add its own brand of chaos to the mix. As we trekked through the verdant forests that bordered our village, the imp darted about, tangling our feet with vines and leading us in circles. Each time we thought we'd outsmarted it, the imp proved us foolish. "Curse this impish knave," Falco exclaimed, though he couldn't help but chuckle at each new blunder. The forest gave way to rolling hills, and we spotted a plume of smoke curling into the sky. It was coming from Iggy's lair atop Dragon's Bluff, a craggy peak that overlooked the realm. "We're close now, Eddie," Falco whispered, his usual bravado replaced with a tinge of apprehension. I nodded, feeling the weight of my sword at my side. I wasn't sure what I'd do when we faced Iggy. I was no dragon slayer. My swordplay was for show, not battle. When we reached the mouth of the cave, we were greeted not by a roar, but by a snicker that echoed off the walls. Iggy's ember-like eyes regarded us with amusement. "Welcome, brave Sir Edwin and illustrious bard Falco," the dragon boomed, his voice a blend of thunder and mischief. "I trust you've enjoyed my little jest?" I stepped forward, my heart pounding a rhythm against my chest. "Iggy, this has to end. You have the princess." The dragon snorted, a burst of fireworks sputtering from his nostrils, lighting up the cave with a dazzling display. "Ah, but the princess is part of the jest. Solve my riddles, and you shall find her unharmed." Falco strummed his lute, his voice rising in a ballad of heroism that made me seem braver than I felt. "We accept your challenge, Iggy. Let the riddles begin." As the dragon began to speak in riddles, I realized this wasn't a battle of steel, but of wits. Perhaps this was my kind of quest after all, a battle not against a monster, but against the mischief in a dragon's heart. And with Folly by my side, I dared to believe we might just have the last laugh. Chapter 2: The Bard's Ballads and the Dragon's Dalliance. Morning dawned with a soft, rosy hue as I strolled into the heart of our cobblestone square. The air was crisp with the promise of adventure, and I could already hear the strumming of Falco's lute. He stood atop a wooden crate, his voice carrying over the gathering crowd like a banner of courage. People of Fantasia, Falco's voice rang out, clear and melodic, lend me your ears. For today, we embark on a quest of whimsy and wit, a jesting dragon to outsmart. I leaned against the moss-covered well, arms crossed, observing the townsfolk as they clustered around my companion. Their eyes sparkled with excitement, a palpable gap to the dread that churned in my stomach. Falco's ballads wove tales of bravery, of knights vanquishing foes, and of course, he didn't spare any praise for Iggy's cleverness. For who among us can claim to have outwitted a dragon, he sang, his fingers dancing over the lute strings. The townspeople buzzed with laughter and chatter, their spirits lifted by the bard's contagious enthusiasm. It was infectious, even to me, and I found a half grin tugging at my lips. Come then, Eddie, let's prepare, for the dragon awaits. Falco hopped down, slinging his lute over his shoulder. Our preparations were a lively affair, a mix of earnest effort and mirth. I sharpened my sword while Falco organized a band of volunteers, each one eager to play a part in Iggy's game. The blacksmith clanged away, shaping iron into shields, and the baker kneaded dough with as much gusto as if she were crafting armor. As we set out, the imp from yesterday darted between our feet, its cackles like jingling bells. It plucked at Falco's lute strings, disrupting his tune, and even tied our shoelaces together when we weren't looking. Curse this little troublemaker, I muttered, trying to untangle the mess. Why must you meddle? But the imp merely grinned, and in its eyes, a glint of mischief suggested it knew more than it let on. The chase began not long after we ventured beyond the town's edge. Iggy led us through the meandering forest, leaving riddles carved into tree trunks and whispered in the wind. Listen, Falco exclaimed. The dragon teases us with clever words and cunning, but fear not, for every riddle has an answer, and we shall find them. We followed the trail of enigmas, and with each correct answer, the path cleared, revealing further twists and turns. Iggy's laughter seemed to dance around us, a constant reminder of the challenge he presented. At one point, we found ourselves at a clearing where the imp's tricks caused an unexpected revelation. Falco, in his attempt to sing away the creature's peskiness, found his own words weaving a different tale, one that spoke of Iggy's past. In the days of yore, Falco sung, his voice softening, there lived a dragon, young at heart, who desired not gold nor fame, but a friend to share in laughter and jest. I turned to Falco, surprised. Is this true? Iggy seeks companionship? Falco nodded, his expression solemn. It seems our dragon has been lonely, playing pranks to fill a void where friendship should reside. Understanding dawned on me, and a plan began to take shape. If Iggy sought companionship, perhaps we could offer him that instead of confrontation. But first, we had to catch him. Our pursuit of Iggy was as much a mental battle as it was a physical one. Each riddle we solved, each jest we parried, brought us closer to understanding the dragon's true desire. And so, armed with new insight and determination, we pressed on, our laughter mingling with the challenges ahead. For the first time, I began to believe that perhaps we could outwit a dragon who had never been outsmarted, not with might, but with the promise of kinship and the merry chase that had brought us all together. Chapter 3, of Fireworks and Folly. As twilight embraced the sky, brushing it with shades of blush and lavender, the air around Dragon's Bluff filled with a sense of anticipation that even the breeze seemed to carry. Iggy's lair loomed before us, the mouth of the cave yawning wide like the stage of an amphitheater. And there he sat, his massive form cloaked in the dimming light, smoldering ember eyes fixed upon us. Falco, with lute in hand, and I approached, our strides in tandem. The imp scampered alongside, its tiny form a blur of energy, ready to turn our solemn moment into a whirlwind of laughter. Iggy, I called out, my voice steady despite the tumultuous beat of my heart. We accept your challenge, but not with steel and shield. I propose a different kind of battle, a contest of cleverness, of wits. The dragon tilted his head, the scales around his neck shimmering like coins in a treasure chest. Ah, young Eddie, Iggy rumbled, a grin stretching across his reptilian muzzle. A battle of wits, you say? Intriguing. And what do you wager? Falco strummed a dramatic chord, the sound echoing against the stone. The freedom of Princess Marigold and a treasure that befits a dragon of yore, Magnificence, he sang, his voice a tapestry of confidence and charm. Iggy's laughter was a cascade of chimes, and he clapped his claws in amusement. Very well. Let us begin. With a wave of his claw, Iggy conjured an array of fireworks that burst into the sky, an explosion of colors that painted our very own stars. The townsfolk who had followed in our wake gasped in delight at the spectacle. The first riddle, Eddie, Iggy boomed, his voice playful. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? Falco leaned in, whispering, Think, my friend. You have this. I pondered, my gaze drifting to the leaves rustling with the evening gusts. An echo, I replied, a smile breaking through my usual reserve. Correct, Iggy bellowed, and another round of fireworks celebrated my answer. The imp, seizing its moment, darted between the legs of the onlookers, causing a ripple of laughter as people danced away from its playful nips. Next riddle, Iggy declared, the fire in his eyes dancing with mirth. I have keys but open no locks. I have space but there is no room. You can enter but you can't go outside. What am I? Falco's fingers brushed the strings of his lute, creating a soft hum that seemed to fill the space with warmth. Keys but no locks, he muttered, more to himself than to me. A keyboard, I answered, quicker this time, emboldened by the camaraderie around us. Indeed it is. Iggy's voice rang out, and the crowd erupted into cheers. As the imp weaved its chaos among the crowd, turning the field before Iggy's lair into a scene of jovial disarray, I couldn't help but laugh. The creature might have intended to disrupt, but instead it added to the joyous atmosphere. One by one, I answered Iggy's riddles, each correct response a step closer to winning our wager. Falco's music soared, a symphony of hope and festivity, his ballads recounting our journey with each note. Finally, Iggy posed the last riddle, his tone taking on a gentle lilt that seemed almost wistful. I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I? The answer came to me as naturally as breathing. A fire, I said, my voice carrying across the gathered crowd. Precisely, Iggy exclaimed, and with a whoosh he extinguished his own fiery breath, signaling my victory. The townspeople cheered, and even the imp paused in its antics to join in the applause. Iggy bowed his head, a gesture of respect, and with a sweep of his tail, he revealed Princess Marigold, unharmed and smiling. And the treasure? I asked. My curiosity piqued. Iggy's chuckle resonated deep within his chest. The treasure, dear Eddie, is the laughter we've shared, the joy of a challenge met, and a friendship forged in jest. I looked at Falco, and we exchanged a glance of understanding. We hadn't just outwitted a dragon, we'd won an ally in the hardiest game of all. The festival atmosphere continued long into the night, with Iggy's fireworks and Falco's music setting a backdrop for a tale that would be told for generations. This night, the battle was won not with a blade, but with the bonds of a shared laugh under the banner of stars. Chapter 4, The Knight's Knavery and the Dragon's Defeat. As dawn unfurled its golden banner across the skies of Fantasia, I stood with Falco at the edge of Dragon's Bluff, the cool morning breeze wafting the scent of pine and earth. We faced Iggy, our once fearsome foe, now a potential friend, his massive form reclining leisurely against the rugged stones of his lair. Falco plucked a merry tune on his lute, his straw-blonde hair catching the sunlight in a halo of radiance. Eddie, today's the day we turn every tall tale of dragon and knight on its head, he said, his blue eyes twinkling with the thrill of what was to come. Aye, that it is, Falco, I replied, my chestnut hair a wild dance in the wind. Today, we show the kingdom the true heart of a dragon. Iggy huffed, a plume of smoke swirling from his nostrils, his ember eyes warm with amusement. So, brave Eddie, what knavery have you concocted to win this game of ours? I grinned, emboldened by the dragon's playful tone. A show, Iggy, a grand spectacle that will have the kingdom laughing for years. Just then, the imp scurried to my side, its tiny form a blur of mischief. And what role do I play in this grand plan? It asked, its voice a high-pitched tangle of glee. You, little trickster, I said, are the master of ceremonies, the one who set this merry chase in motion. The imp cackled, its laughter like the tinkle of tiny bells, all according to Iggy's grand design, it declared. Falco gasped. You mean to say this imp was yours, Iggy? A playful agent in your jest? Iggy nodded, a rumble of pride resounding through his chest. Indeed, but now it seems our roles have reversed. Lead on, Eddie. Show me this jest we are to perform. Together, we orchestrated a show unlike any other. Iggy flew above the kingdom, his wings creating gusts that rippled through the streets, while Falco's music soared, a illuminator for all to gather. The imp scampered through the crowd, weaving illusions that made children squeal with delight and adults chuckle with wonder. And I, once a knight more interested in jests than quests, found myself center stage, the architect of a grand ruse. People of Fantasia, I called out, my voice carrying far and wide, behold the dragon, not a beast to be feared, but a friend to be cherished. Iggy landed with a grace that belied his size, his scales shimmering with an iridescence that held the crowd spellbound. I come bearing gifts, Iggy announced, his voice a sonorous boom that echoed with good humor. For the true treasure is not gold, but the joy we share. Princess Marigold stepped forward, her smile as radiant as the morning sun. Sir Edwin, your cleverness and kind heart have shown us a new way. Let this day mark the beginning of a new chapter in our history. The kingdom erupted into applause, the sound rolling like thunderous waves of pure joy. Iggy bowed his head, and I stepped forward, placing a hand upon his snout. Today, we have not defeated a monster, but gained an ally. May our laughter echo through the ages. The festival that followed was a tapestry of color and sound, with Iggy's fireworks painting the heavens and Falco's ballads stirring the soul. The imp, once a sign of chaos, now danced among us, a symbol of the unexpected friendships that can arise from the most unlikely of places. As night descended upon the kingdom, a blanket of stars watching over us, I knew that the greatest victory was not in overcoming a foe, but in transforming an adversary into an ally. And as the last firework burst in a shower of light, I realized that Iggy's last laugh was one we could all share. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed The Dragon's Last Laugh. Please smash that like button, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily storytelling adventures.